right. Good morning, and welcome to the International Mastermind Show on Think and Grow Rich. My name is Galen Bingham. I'm the leadership strategist, and I am so excited to be part of this conversation today for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is my first time being with Miss Ann McNeil after she's back from her work. So I'm excited to be on the co-host. Got an incredible conversation with Dr. Deeawn Roundtree, and she's going to be talking about imagination. Imagination, that's where your dreams come to life. Everything that's ever been created has been created twice. First in someone's mind before it has ever been created physically. So we're going to get into that conversation. But first, Miss Ann McNeil, I am so excited to have you back on the show. How are you doing? How are you doing?
Galen, gallery view versus speaker view. I'm doing very well. Thank you so very much for asking, and I'm very excited also to be back and get back on the training wheels of uh, of this podcast. But I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Peter James, Lewis, all of you for just continuing to enlarge the vision of this philosophy as we come on every single Saturday and talk about these principles, but we're also living the principles. And so I'm very excited to share about this particular principle, creative and synthetic imagination, because to have traveled over 72 ports around the world on a Crystal Serenity World Cruise has changed my life, if you will, as relates to how I view things in terms of an imagination. And what you can imagine can actually become a reality. And as you know, Napoleon Hill tells us in this philosophy in particular that he calls it the workshop of the mind. And so I like to think of it literally as a workshop. I'm a contractor by profession. We have workshops and we work with tools, and then we imagine what the blueprint will look like once it's built. Well, that blueprint was imagination in the mind of the architect, the owner, the designer that designed all of those things. And whether you're a scientist or a laborer, we have a workshop in our own mind to imagine what is it that you desire. That's what the imagination is tapping into. It is a desire that is being shaped into some kind of action. And when you think of this particular principle, I think that everything starts with this. We have some phenomenal stories that the author gives in terms of Coca-Cola and how the university was formed. But we have a living example today with Dr. Roundtree of how she's using her own imagination to help elevate women in a lot of different areas of their life and their business. So I'm very excited to be back. Not going to get too much into the principle right now because it is just, like I said, it's been life changing for me to really begin to understand how do I use my own imagination creatively through journaling and a lot of different exercises that I use from my book, My Daily Date with Myself, which Gayla and I actually did every single day,
All
did
right.
not miss a day on that shift. And so I'm excited to talk about what tools we can all use to tap into the imagination. But it means absolutely nothing if we don't have an accountability group and, a process by which we're going to be held accountable. So as always, let's get this party started.
All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. So, before I bring in our guest, I just want to acknowledge the folks following us and checking us out live on YouTube. We've got Carla Hill, we've got Laura Jackson, who's here. Meta Wilson is here. Velan Whitfield just popped in. So thank you guys for being part of this conversation. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up icon underneath the video so that we can let the YouTube folks know that there's a whole lot more going on YouTube rather than what's going on with Diddy and the current presidential administration. So thumbs up icon and share the link with anyone you believe needs to understand what the imagination is all about and get on this Think and Grow Rich journey. Let me tell you a little bit about our guest before we bring her on. Dr. Deeawn Roundtree is the CEO of Roundtree Training and Consulting, and she's a leader in personal and professional development. She holds certifications such as Senior Certified Professional with the Society of Human Resource Management, and she also has certifications in leadership coaching with John Maxwell. With the John Maxwell team. She's an award-winning author. Her books include Leading from Within, a faith-based perspective on leadership and beyond the boardroom, with a doctor of ministry, a doctorate of business administrations, and extensive community involvement. Dr. Roundtree serves on multiple boards, including the Black Chamber of Commerce and Women's Chamber of Palm Beach County. Uh, this is going to be an amazing conversation. She is a leadership icon and giant, which is near and dear to my heart. So, with that, Dr. Roundtree, please come on in. Come on into the conversation. You're on mute now. You're on mute, but come on in. Come on in.
Hello, Galen. Hello, Ann. It's so good to be here again. I can't believe so much time has passed since again. And so happy that you thought to bring me back.
Fantastic, fantastic. Can't wait to get into this conversation because you've got an extensive background in leadership and in training and in human resources and as I said before, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. But I know that at the foundation of all of this work is the imagination. So before we get into this conversation, take us through a little bit of your background because I'm sure you didn't come in day one with all these certifications and all of this passion and wisdom around leadership. What was that journey like from the beginning? How did you get to where you are right now?
Well, Galen, thank you so much for asking. And I have to point back to my childhood. We came from humble beginnings and it was a struggle. And that struggle fostered in me this motivation to have a better quality of life. And I knew at an early age that education was a catalyst to getting there. So I embarked on my education while working full-time, going to school part-time for every degree because my parents couldn't afford to pay for my education. And we did not meet the limits to get the grants that disadvantaged or low income recipients could qualify for. So in this quagmire, I knew I needed to work, especially so I could be on my own. So my plan, talk about imagination, was to have an organization that I worked for to pay for my education, whether I went, full-time or part-time. And that's exactly what happened. It's amazing because I was hired by a utility company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I shared this with Ann before. And sure enough, I embarked on my undergraduate degree in business management at Carlow University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they paid for most of it, I'd say about at least half of it, which was great. And then I paid for the other half, which was fine because I was working and making money. Then I got hired eventually at Johnson & Johnson and decided I wanted to get my master's degree in professional leadership and training and development from Carlow University again, because I fell in love with the university. It was a women's focused university, but today it's multi-disciplinary, multi-gender, and it's grown tremendously from when I started. It was Carlow College then, now it's Carlow University, and we have our first Black female president, Dr. Catherine Humphreys, who has been there now, I think, for at least 2 years, and it's just been phenomenal to be able to connect with them again. And then I embarked on my doctorate of business administration when I was a adjunct professor at Lincoln University Lincoln University, Pennsylvania, the first HBCU in the country. I know Cheney, we argue back and forth, but 1854. And that was tremendous. One of my favorite people in the world who has gone to be with the Lord, Dr. Judith A.W. Thomas. She hired me while I was still working in pharmaceutical sales to be an adjunct professor, part-time. And then when I got married and decided to have a family, I wanted all that energy to be harnessed toward becoming a mother, the best mother I could be, and transitioned to academia part-time and eventually full-time because they encouraged me. And all this was, part of that imagination, and I, like I said, being from humble beginnings really caused me to dream, because I could see around me, even family members who were mentoring me and encouraging me and motivating me, that, I could do and be and have whatever I wanted. And so, seeing my future self, seeing the kind of quality of life that I wanted to live. And thankfully, I'm living that life today. I still have a ways to go, but I'm living it today, and I'm still using my imagination to create the future that I still want. And it's still strong as ever.
Wow, that's fantastic. I can't wait for us to get deeper into this conversation about how you leverage the imagination and specifically, how do you overcome this um, desire, this temptation to look at what is as opposed to what could be and what you want. So that's what we want to get into. But first, we're going to check out this video. Before we go to the video, though, I just want to acknowledge the folks that are riding with us here in the studio. So we got Angela Sturgis is with us here. Ashley Warwick is here in the studio with us. Erica is with us. Jason Murray, always with us in one place or another. So thank you for that. Victoria Long Coleman. So thank you for being with us here on Zoom. You get a firsthand opportunity to ask us questions. But if you're on YouTube, get your questions ready, because this is going to be your opportunity to really understand how to leverage your imagination. So we're going to go to this video. And in the video, we're going to look at all the 13 principles, but I really want you to look at and think about how all these principles fit. Because we'll talk about these principles one at a time, and you're going to get a lot out of this conversation about imagination, but I really want you to focus on how these principles all knit together, because it's the connective tissue that really brings the power. So with that, we'll be back on the other side.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the Mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical. But what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of Step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right, and now we are back, and I want to bring Dr. Roundtree back in. Because one of the questions we like to start with is talk a little bit about your introduction to this book. When did this, first of all, when did this book first come on your radar screen? And then I also like to ask, when did this become more than just a book? Because I've got a lot of books on my shelf that some I haven't even read, some I've read once. But this is one of those books that, I mean, the pages are tattered, the spine is broken. I got notes, I got highlights, I got underlines. When were you introduced to the book, and when did it become more than just a book for you?
Thanks for asking that question, Galen. The book Think and Grow Rich was introduced to me when I was working at a utility company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it really impacted me because I was also reading a book called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And between those two books, the very practical nature of these books really instilled in me how important it is to control our mindset. And I was in a job where I didn't love. I was a secretary and was being treated as a servant, told what to do all day, and not in a positive way. Sometimes it was in a demeaning way. But I'm thankful for that because, boy, did that motivate me to go back to school and get my degrees, because I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And these books, both of those books, really helped to shape my mindset. And then I was introduced shortly after, I was introduced to Dr. Dennis Kimbrough's book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. And with these books together, culminated, and especially Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, I got the courage to take that step of faith and gave my 2-week notice to that utility company. And I was so scared, but I went and supported a woman who had her own PR firm. She was new as a business owner, and she was having some challenges herself. So I didn't stay long at all, stayed at a very short time. But then I started meeting people who were in the pharmaceutical industry, and I was seeing how their lifestyle was phenomenal. And I started really thinking about, how I wanted the quality of my life to be. So I started pursuing the pharmaceutical industry. And sure enough, eventually got hired by Johnson & Johnson after 5 interviews, and stayed there for close to 10 years and went to another pharmaceutical company, a smaller firm, before transitioning full-time as a mom and then part-time into academia.
Wow. I mean, that's quite the journey. That's not the way we draw up our career trajectory when we're in school or when we're dreaming. It's usually a straight line when we draw it, but it's the twists and turns
Yeah.
that really add texture to our career later on. And so now I'm curious, before we bring in Ms. Ann, I'm curious, how do you resist the temptation? And I'm going to lean on your doctorate in ministry now, right? Feel free to pull in some scripture if you need to. But we're told that we should see things the way that we want them to be, not necessarily the way that they are. We should
Sure.
see what we want as opposed to necessarily focus on what we have in front of us. How do you resist that temptation? Because that sounds good. That sounds
Yes.
great. That makes a lot of sense. But
Mhm.
practically, how do you do that?
I think that's a great question because it's not a one and done situation. And especially on this entrepreneurial journey, you have to remind yourself constantly of that. But faith is the key. If you don't have faith, and it's not so much believing in yourself and your credentials and who you are, but for me, and maybe for some that works, and I'm not saying it doesn't, but for me, it is in a greater power, and that is the foundation for what I live and how I live, and that's my faith in Jesus Christ. He came into my life. He's always been there, but I should say I invited him into my heart when I was 15 years old, and cultivating, and still cultivating today after all this time, cultivating that relationship with God on a personal, deeper level has given me the confidence and encouragement and the faith to know that I can do whatever he wants me to do. Because it's not just about doing whatever I want to do, because I've had all kind of pipe dreams, right? All kind. You name it, I've probably thought about it or tried it. But my prayer was for God to be in my life. I have vision boards. I feel in my house right now. And I have goals, and I've written notebooks on various notebooks in my home. But I always make sure that at the forefront, I say, Lord, not my will, your will be done. Why? Because there's times when I've veered and thought I had the right answer, and it's a waste of time and money, but not totally, because you learn. But I realize that when I let my ego and let myself take the forefront, because I've made those mistakes, even though I know better, I still do, even though I know better, right? And I always regret it. So learning to put my ego behind me and surrendering myself to God's will, things always work out. But it's easier said than done. It's easy to be on a podcast. It's easy to teach a workshop or to teach a course on this. But when your emotions and your
Mm.
feelings and your checkbook and your bank account are saying liar, liar, pants on fire, that's the test. That's the test of our resilience. That's the test of our faith. And, it's a reminder that money, and success should not be our primary focus, but God and his will. And he's the provider and he's the source. So as long as I keep that in alignment and rest and depend on trust him, and it's not easy. Something I have to tell myself every day and remind myself by reading his word and listening to positive music and positive podcasts, things like this. That's what keeps me in alignment and sustained. But it's an intentional act every day, I must admit. I wish it was a one and done game.
Some sort of pill you could take or shot or some sort of.
I know. And as long as I've known this, it's been, I'd say at least 30 years since I first read Think and Grow Rich. And you would think that all you'd have to do is watch or read, a movie like The Secret, or read, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, or Think and Grow Rich by Dr. Napoleon Hill. You would think that's all you would need to do. It's just one and done, but it's not. You have to start new and fresh every day.
Wow. With a child's eyes, right? With child's eyes.
Yes, humility, humility. Teachableness, yes.
So, Ms. Ann, come on in the conversation, because you've got to be hearing a lot of the principles that you've talked about in what Dr. Roundtree shared already.
Absolutely. And thank you both for the dialogue. As I was sitting here listening, I really want to go back and have you share an example of how you've used the power of either the synthetic imagination, which, as we know, for those who are listening, maybe for the first time and wondering what in the world are they talking about? And also, who in the world are they talking to? And so if you have just joined us, and you may have stumbled on this sometime in the future, we're speaking with Dr. Deeawn Roundtree, and she's the CEO of Roundtree Training and Consulting. And she is a leader in professional and personal development. And so we're talking about the principle of imagination. Now, Napoleon Hill tells us that there's two. One is creative, which, you just shared in terms of connecting to the infinite, if you will, and having the download. But the other is synthetic imagination. And that is where you're able to take two existing concepts and using imagination and create a third. I like to use the example of Cirque du Soleil. Blue Ocean Strategies is one of my favorite books, and also the other book that you mentioned too, along with the Think and Grow Rich. But Blue Ocean Strategies shares that example of synthetic imagination is the circus. We know circus, and then we know ballet. But when you put the two together, you have Cirque du Soleil, right? That's the power of the synthetic imagination and how you can use it to create a third idea or the third concept or a third product. So could you give us an example of how you use your creative imagination or your synthetic imagination, and what did that process look like? Because there are many people who will only hear your voice, Deeawn. And as you share the struggles, the trials, the tribulations, and the triumphs, if you will, they can glean from that how they can overcome using their imagination, either one, and press until they succeed. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for that question. When I think about the synthetic side of it, as a certified leadership trainer, coach, and speaker with the Dr. John Maxwell team, I love his program because it was a personal development journey for me. And not only did I cultivate wisdom and guidance and knowledge and skills for myself, but I also was able to create a business that I'm doing today. And not only that, now that it's been over 4 years, I finally feel like I know my niche. I know who I want to serve. And not only, but I feel like there's a calling for me to serve women of color who have had the same kind of challenges that I had when I started in the workplace without any degrees. And, little by little, time, had to pass long journey of education, getting my undergraduate degree while working full-time, getting my master's degree while working full-time, getting my first doctorate degree while working as an adjunct, but really working full-time, and then getting my second doctorate in ministry, working as a full-time program director and business professor. And so, this was such a journey for me. And all that I've learned and the challenges that I've faced and the mentors and people who have poured into me, I knew that I wanted to create from what I have gone through a program, an executive coaching program for other women of color like me who are going into a corporate culture that is totally foreign to them and having to learn the hard way how to navigate that environment. And not that other people of other cultures and faiths and mainstream culture don't have challenges. We all do as human beings because we're dealing with other people. But there are unique challenges that women of color face. And I wanted to create a program specifically for us. And I work with all kinds of people. I train all kinds of people, and I love it. But I wanted to create a signature executive coaching program that would help and support women of color who are in the workplace dealing with microaggressions, dealing with pay inequity, not sure what their purpose is, needing a job, just so that they can survive, and not knowing the fulfillment of a career that is in alignment with who they are, with how they can give back. And so I am doing that right now. I started it back in December. I think I even mentioned it on your show 6 months ago. And now we're in full swing. And I've had women come through this executive coaching program, and we had our first in-person meetup last week. And, it started in my mind realizing that this journey was arduous, whether it was in the workplace, going back to school and dealing with that, dealing with professors who did not think much of you or who challenged you until you wanted to just give up. And so, thank God for his Holy Spirit who gives you the strength. You can do all things through him, but he does have to give you the strength. And I have learned throughout this journey that I must depend on him. I must wait on him. And he is my source. And we are going to face challenges, but if we don't have that foundation, if we don't have that faith in God to know that he's for us and he's with us, we will be beat down and give up. And many people give up. And that's why I decided to create this executive program for women of color who were just like me and are just like me, and who want to get some support, whether they want to get promoted in the workplace or if they want to transition and start their own business, or they're in business and still having, those challenges with access to capital, mindset, those leadership skills, and how to foster a brand where they are known, liked, and trusted. My background, everything I've done, from being in high school, having my first business called 10 Fingers Typing Services, where I was typing people's resumes and papers, till today, has all culminated to support what I do now. Every little thing, every step, every failure, every mistake. And my faith has allowed me to get back up and to keep going, to stay persistent.
Okay, so if I can come back to the question, which imagination were you using? Was that
I'd say it's both, to be honest.
okay? Okay, I'm talking to the audience so that I can make sure
Yeah.
that people understand that
Sure.
what you shared is how you start with the creative first, download from God in terms of ideas.
Sure.
And then you're able to take those ideas creatively in your imagination and then take the concepts of
Mhm.
coaching, if you will, personal development, and some others, and create a product that will help elevate women in their personal and professional areas. So we do have a question in the YouTube. Galen, if you want to take that, if you want me to take
Yeah.
that, Ms.
Yeah,
Long.
so we've got Dr. Victoria Long Coleman wants to know, why do you think so many adults, especially people who are really successful or work in ministry, why do you think they struggle with using their imagination? We tend to get so locked into, what we learned in school, this book that we read, and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. And we tend to struggle with using either our creative or our synthetic imagination. Why do you think that is?
First of all, I want to thank Dr. Coleman for that question, because I totally can relate. And it was an inspiration for me to write my book called Leading from Within Ministry, or Leading from Within, a faith-based perspective on leadership. And now I do have a ministry called Leading from Within as well. And I wrote this book because I felt that even though we know that it is by grace we're saved, and we know that no one's perfect, I felt and I interpreted the teachings about God's word as very black and white. You have to follow the 10 Commandments, and if you don't, you're going to hell. Bottom line. And if you do that, if you get stuck there, then you're almost walking on pins and needles. And you talk about the law of attraction. It's almost as if you're constantly attracting things that make you feel like you're never going to measure up. You're never going to be good enough, because you're trying to do it in your own strength, in your own willpower. And so I believe, for me, especially in ministry, people of faith, I think we limit ourselves because we think we have to be perfect human beings, which is totally unattainable and would negate why Jesus Christ came to die on the cross in the first place.
Fantastic, fantastic. Hey, something that you talked about reminds me of a concept that I share a lot with my clients, and that is this idea that we should date the strategy but marry the objective. So date the strategy but marry the objective. And so my question is, how do you recommend that we use our imagination, have an idea of what we want, but then be flexible as to how that comes into play? Because the
Yes.
infinite has a better idea as to how that needs to manifest. We can have
Yes.
an idea, and we should have an idea, but we shouldn't be so tied to the how as
Yes.
maybe many of us are. What's your recommendation for how people can do that?
Thank you, Galen, for that question. It made me think about an exercise I do in a lot of my leadership training sessions and with my one-on-one coaching clients, and that's creating a vision board. And so in my vision board, the very first one, I had photos of all the things I wanted to obtain, such as a doctorate. Not the second doctorate wasn't on there, I must admit, but the doctorate degree, the kind of home I wanted, the kind of car I wanted to drive, the family, and so forth. And I'll give you this example. When I wanted to pursue my doctorate in business administration, in my mind, I wanted to go to Penn, Wharton Business School. That was my goal. And I was preparing to do that. I was getting ready to take not the MCAT but the standardized test for your business, but not MCAT, not LSAT. I don't know, the MBA one. But anyway, I was getting ready to take this Kaplan course so that I would do well on this particular standardized test to get into grad school. And I was just sure, that Penn was the only option. I was living in Philadelphia, and that's where I wanted to go. And I remember putting that on my vision board, and I was going to graduate in 2016 at that time. And then I started talking to other colleagues. I wanted to get a PhD in business administration. Started talking to some colleagues and went to a workshop from the Kauffman Foundation that focuses on entrepreneurship. And several of my colleagues were professors, and I was telling them that I wanted to go to Penn and get my MBA. And I was also thinking, no, sorry, I keep saying MBA, my doctorate degree in business administration. I wasn't sure if I should get the PhD because there's a difference between a PhD and a doctorate of business. And they all said to me, you need to pursue the doctorate of business administration. I said, okay, great, I'll do that. And then Lincoln University encouraged me to go back to school, of course, but they, instead of going to Penn, they were encouraging me to go to Wilmington University. And I'm like, why should I go to Wilmington when I can get into Penn, or hopefully get into Penn? And, they had a relationship with them, and it focused on the more practical side of business. And when I realized that, I said, that might be the better way to go, because I knew I wanted to be a consultant, which is what I'm doing today. And to get my PhD at Penn, it would take a long, long time. Versus getting my doctorate of business administration, I could do that part-time and still get done even sooner than had I gone to Penn. And so I prayed about that, decided to go to Wilmington University, and graduated in 2012 instead of 2016, which was on my vision board. And so the bottom line is surrendering your desires and your goals to God and allowing Him to guide you and to lead you. And I think if you do that, you'll get to your goals, and sometimes even faster. But you do have to be open-minded to Him, and you have to be willing and flexible, because I'm strong-willed. I know what I want, type A, but if you don't have enough sense or awareness to know that God knows best, and if you can just humble yourself before Him, then you will attain your goals, and it might be even better than what you thought.
I love it. I love it. Got another question from YouTube. This is Carla Hill. She wants to know what's been your most valuable tool in maximizing your imagination.
I would say for me is being very intentional and careful about what I allow my mind to focus on. And that includes what I watch on television. That includes what I'm reading. It includes the people that I allow to influence me, and as we chronologically grow, it becomes even more detrimental to make sure that our energy is directed intentionally, because people will drain the life out of you. So I'm careful about what I focus on. I'm careful about who I allow to influence me in my decisions. And then my prayer life. Again, for me, it's all about my faith. And, once I have a goal in mind, it's your desires. The Bible tells us that God will give us the desires of our heart. And some people interpret that as God gives you what you want. But I see a different meaning to that. I believe that God puts the desires in your heart that He wants you to accomplish. And so I believe that because those desires are in there, I didn't manufacture them. I believe God put them there and wants me to accomplish them. And that Therefore, if I surrender my will to him, those desires that he placed in my heart to do whatever it is he's called me to do, it's going to happen. But he wants the glory too. And I think, a lot of times our pride and arrogance and our self-will can definitely conflict. And he hates pride. He tells us God hates pride. So I think that humility and self-awareness and being open to his will and teachable is the journey and the track to real success, not just materially and financially, but internally with a peace of mind, which is more important than anything, and your health.
Mm. And I see you over there nodding your head. Come on into the conversation and talk a little bit about this annual meeting that you've created as well.
Well, thank you so very much for that question and about the annual, but also, Carla, thank you for the question about the tools. And I think Dr. Roundtree has also created and she discussed additional tool, which is her vision boards that she has that has been very effective in helping her manifest from her imagination, first by identifying what vision you want and having a picture of it somewhere you can see it, and then having a plan and accountability. So thank you both for the question. Galen, thank you also for the question about the annual meeting. I set a goal for those who join us on our Friday accountability call. I set a goal for the annual meeting to have 50 mastermind groups at our annual meeting in January. We host an annual meeting for your life. This is for your life. This is a whole life mastermind. I want all of you to think about if you are in a mastermind group of any kind, you have a group of individuals that you're masterminding with. My question for you is this: who's holding the group accountable for your group goals? That is why the International Mastermind Association was created, to have an accountability of mastermind groups. And I wrote this book called How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group many years ago, because many people don't really understand, how do I start a group? There are fee masterminds and then there are free masterminds. This is basically a free mastermind you would create within your friends and family. Now, like Dr. Roundtree and myself and Galen, many of us, we have 4 fee masterminds. That's something different. But when you think about having accountability for your whole life, your spiritual, your family, your financial, your health, your education, your personal development, the recreation, creativity, civic, and your business, setting these goals for 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, where do you go to be held accountable? And so what we've done is we've created an annual meeting for your life. We host that meeting in Boca Raton. In 2026, it will be held at the Embassy Suites in Boca on Yamato Road. And as a result of that, I set a goal for myself to actually go and create a mastermind group per week. And for those that listen to us on Friday, every Friday I say the same thing, but I did not create a strategy. No, I did not. I said the same thing every week, right, Lynn, right, Carla, like to write the rebook. And then this week I was convicted that if I was serious about that goal, I needed to have a strategy and a plan and accountability group to hit that goal. And so this Tuesday, I met with the accountability group. And for all of you that's interested, this is a not-for-profit organization called the Think and Grow Rich International Mastermind Association. And yes, I'm certified with the Napoleon Hill Foundation and been in this philosophy since 1979. But where's the accountability for your group, for your family? And I set the goal, discussed it with the group on Tuesday of this week. And my strategy was to create a scan and ask everybody that I ran into if they were in a mastermind group, and if not, if they were interested. And in the course of this week, we hit 20 individuals that said, yes, I'm interested. And so if you are interested, I put my number next to my name, and I'll put it also in the YouTube, but you can text Ann, that's ANN, my name, put it in the chat, but text the number 59925. That number again is 59925, and put the word "and" in the chat. And that will let us know that you're interested in starting your mastermind group as a part of our annual meeting that's going to be held in January 2026. January, I think it's the 7th and 8th. I'm looking for the dates, Galen, so I can get the dates right. But you can go to internationalmasterminders.com and get those details. Internationalmasterminders.com. And I'll go there now, Galen, pull that website up. But you can go there and register and get the details. But the point I want to make in all of this is this, and Galen and others can speak to this. If you have a mastermind group, ask yourself the question, what's your group goal? Are you planning on joining us in January with your group to share how you've set goals, hit those goals? And as Gayla knows, if it's not written, you can't share it. Can I say it again? If it's not written, you can't share it. But we really are creating a space, a platform, and a real in-person place where you can come to be accountable for every area of your life and or your business. And I take this very seriously because I know the transformation it's having and has had in my life. And just for the mere fact, I set that goal the same day I set the goal, got on the Brightline train to come home from Miami to West Palm. I walk on the train, I'm walking through the hallway, and a guy is sitting next to me on the train reading none other than Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that to me was a confirmation of how to use your creative imagination. I prayed about it. And then the synthetic imagination, I had to do something. The next day, the same thing happened. I'm at a conference. I'm talking to somebody about Think and Grow Rich. A lady walks by, opens her handbag, pulls out a copy of Think and Grow Rich.
Wow.
This is serious, and Deeawn, I would definitely be talking with you offline to encourage you and your mastermind groups, and others who have paid mastermind groups. They bring their members of their group to our meeting because, again, where's the accountability to your group? And so I'm very passionate about this, and I've been very quiet because it's my first day back. And thank you, Lynn and everybody. I'm still in training wheels, trying to remember how to host the show, remember to stop the Zoom, stop the sharing, take down the, click this, do that. But I am just so excited to be back and be able to participate, to elevate. That's what I do for business and a career in my coaching and my consulting business, because I do believe that if you have a desire, whatever it is that you're desiring is desiring you. And Galen and myself and Dr. Roundtree and others, if we had a cure and we did not share it, shame on us. And I do believe we all have transformations. Only, whoever's for you will hear your voice when you speak. And so again, I put my information in the chat, 59925. If you're interested, just put the name Ann in the chat, and we'll follow up with you to send that information to you about how to start and run a successful mastermind group. But again, internationalmasterminders.com. Galen put the information up. And Galen, if you can put it up again so that I can make sure I give that on the YouTube. So those, and the dates are, to be correct, in 2026, January the 9th and 10th. We start on a Friday with the reception, and you can register for the reception, and or you can register for Saturday. which is the annual meeting itself. But we'll get into those details when you register. All right, Galen, thank you. And we're about to wrap this up and land this ship. So back to you, Galen. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this has been an incredible conversation already. I just want to go around, and I'll start with you, Dr. Roundtree. What are some key things that you'd like to leave the audience with, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to get more of the insight that they have heard about in this conversation?
Thanks for asking, Galen. And again, thank you, Anne, for having me for a second time. It's been phenomenal. I must admit that one of the tools that I use with my coaching clients and in my trainings is an exercise called Future Self. And if you think about where you want to be 5, 10 years from now, and I do this with my coaching clients, I get them to actually visualize who it is they want to be. What do they look like? How are they feeling? How are they carrying themselves? Where do they live? All those kinds of things. That's another tool that really helps you to stay focused, along with writing down your goals. We all do that. And the vision board, which is, we're very, very visual. And I want, those of you who hear my voice, if I am in alignment with what you are looking for, and you need that person to be accountable to, and you want someone to come alongside of you to help you to find your purpose and to attain your goals, or to help your teams. If you're working in a position in corporate America or any workplace or sector, and the environment is toxic. I'm getting ready to do a workshop tomorrow for an organization and really help shape their supervisors and their leadership teams so they communicate more effectively, so that they can attain their goals and their employees feel more productive, and their morale is where it needs to be. If you are in those kinds of environments, that's what, where I'm called to serve. And for my signature program, the executive leadership program, the Black in the Boardroom executive coaching program. Thank you, Galen, for showing it. And the link, I believe, will be in the details of the YouTube post. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, of course, and Instagram. And the community is free. The community is called Ladies Lending the Ladder. And Galen, if you would go back, I just wanted you to scroll down a little bit. I want to show them the 3 different programs where they can actually join.
Hold on one second.
Uh-huh. And these programs are named in alignment with corporate America. If you think of, when you first start in the workplace, you're at an entry-level position. And in that program, I do offer you access to the free community. And then you also will receive, at the entry level, you'll receive my ebook and the online course. And it's discounted because I want everyone to be able to afford it. And you can register right on this website. And then the mid-level is the ebook plus access to the community, which is free, the online course, and the mastermind group that we're going to be starting. I was hoping to start in June, and we still might be able to do it, but if not, we have to start in July. June is packed. And then the executive level. Now, the ladies love this. Why? Because they get everything in the entry and mid-level, including the ebook community online course mastermind group, which is 6 weeks right now, but also the 6 one-on-one coaching sessions. So ladies, if this resonates with you, reach out to me. The women are phenomenal. We have over 50 women in the community, and it is growing. And I look forward to seeing you to be a part of it. We have some women who are been there, done that. They have experience that they want to contribute to this group of women. So I'm just grateful to be able to do this from a synthetic and a creative standpoint.
Well, fantastic. Oh my gosh, absolutely worthwhile. I really, really encourage the use of someone who can guide the conversation, that can guide your leadership journey. Obviously, executive coaching is important and a big thing for me. And then again, I just again one of the things that I really, really want to encourage everyone to do is to be sure that you're with us every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. because these are the kinds of conversations that we're having. These are the kinds of people that we're exposing you to. Not just people who have read the book a couple of times, but people who are leveraging the principles to live effective lives, successful lives, and they're encouraging you to do the same. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. You can find me absolutely everywhere. On LinkedIn, on Instagram. I'm off Facebook, so you look for me on Facebook. You're not gonna find me because I left Facebook in December. I absolutely had to protect my spirit, and there was a lot of things going on there that I just couldn't handle. But the most fun way, the most productive way, the most effective way to find me is to find my podcast. We're on every podcast platform. Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. We talk to leaders literally all over the world about the whiskeys they drink, the music they listen to, and what they think it really takes to be an effective leader. In 2024, we were awarded 2 global podcasting awards because we're really, really committed to sharing with you principles and insights to live your best life. This has been an amazing conversation. Absolutely want to thank you, Dr. Roundtree, for being our guest, for coming
Thank
back,
you.
for sharing your insights. Ms. Ann, so excited to see you back on dry land. We did our best while you were away, but it's not the same as having the Master Wealth Builder with us. So I am going to encourage everyone to make this part of your diet. Make this part of your weekly process, and that is to join us for Think and Grow Rich. So until the next time, we're going to sign out and ask you to think and grow rich. Take care.